Hello again, you lovely fitness people. This is Stevo here, aka the Running Englishman, who's simply here to inspire you to be the best and fittest version of yourself. Because if I can do it, so can you. So today's video is 3 things that you probably did not know about Maffetone training. Intro. So if you are new to Maffetone training or are in the middle of doing the process yourself, please go back and watch my other videos, all dedicated to this method, and follow my journey through all the ups and downs that come with the method. So without further ado, here are 3 things that you probably did not know about Maffetone training. Point number 1, there is no set schedule for Maffetone training. So what I mean by this is I see a lot of people online looking for information on how far to run or how often to run. I even searched for this myself when I was just at the beginning. So what happens is Phil Maffetone will basically teach you a whole new way of life. It'll teach you the right foods to eat if you want to follow that part. It'll even tell you what heart rate you need to run at. He's done it all for you. It'll teach you what's the best amount of time to sleep and how to get good quality sleep, and even how to deal with the daily stresses of your life, because these all make the difference. So now it's up to you to commit to all these things and put them all in place so that you can get the best out of this method and in your running or cycling or whatever you choose to do. And with regards to the training schedule, it's really up to you to customize this to exactly what works best for you. So if you want to run every day of the week at shorter distances and that works, keep doing that. If like me, you like to run 3 or 4 times a week, slightly longer distances, and that works for you, then keep doing that. The reason he doesn't give a training schedule that's set for everyone is because everyone is different. Everyone has different needs, everyone has different goals, and everyone responds differently to different types of training. So this is all about working out a schedule that works personally for you. It's a very personalized way of training. You just need to fine tune what works for you and just keep doing that. Once you've sussed it, keep doing that. It's all about trial and error. So with that all said and done, that leads me nicely on to point number 2. So point number 2 is that most people need to fail to succeed. Now I'm not saying this will happen to everyone, but most people will have little downfalls here and there, and trust me, that is a good thing. For example, I realised recently that my times were staying still and it started to go, I started to get a bit slower. So I worked out what was going wrong. I was doing a little bit too much time out running, and I was doing a little bit too much strength training. So I worked it all out. And once I've cut all those things back, I instantly started seeing results in my running again. And I can tell you that just making the small adjustments, that my times have improved like rapidly. Sort of within 2 or 3 runs, your times are sort of flying back to where you want it to be. So this is all about making those mistakes and then finding that fix, and then once you've made that adjustment and got it all back in line, the results will improve almost instantly. And if it's not the case that you're doing too much training or slightly overtraining, then you maybe need to look at your other things like your sleep, your hydration, your daily life stresses. Nutrition is definitely important. So just go back to all those things to make sure that you're doing them correctly. And if them things are all in line, I'll guarantee that your time is going to be getting much better. So when everything is in line, this process will work. Just remember, it's a trial and error. And making errors is fine, because this is actually a lifelong trial if you want it to be. And I'll explain that later on. So that leads me on to point number 3. Point number 3, the MAF method is a cycle. Now I said a second ago that this is a lifelong trial because this is a cycle of 3 different phases that you end up back at the beginning of. I get a little bit fed up of the articles I read online where all these super fast runners say that it's a boring cycle, but those people may not realise, and you may not realise, that it's a 3-phase cycle. The first phase of the cycle is the longest and probably the most important part, where you do need to build up your base. It can take 3 to 6 months, but this is the part where you're running slowly. But trust me, towards the end of those months, you're actually running pretty fast. And then when you start to slow up in the middle, where the times start to stagnate, I suppose, that's when you move to phase 2, where you start to introduce some anaerobic exercise like hill sprints and intervals. And then that in turn, doing that on top of the MAF running you're doing, where you do sort of 10% of it as faster running, in turn gets you even fitter and even faster. It just adds to the process. And then that, if you're into this sort of thing, it leads on to phase 3, which is the competitive phase. So if you wanted to do a few races, if you're not enough too serious, but you can take it serious, you then go into your race phase, where all this fast running you've done on top of your MAF gets you prepared for the races that you wanted to enter. And trust me, you're probably going to run these races pretty damn good. And seriously, doing all these 3 things all in line with each other like that, just each element of it gets you fitter and fitter throughout the year. And then you just go back to the start when you're ready and just start building again. I mean, what's boring about that? It just sounds like what the professional runners do for their training anyway. We're just being told a certain way to do it if you've not had your heart tested in a lab and stuff like that. So it's just a simple way of doing professional training. So the takeaway points from this is there is no set training schedule. It is personalized to you, so that's great. Number 2 is it's fine to make mistakes as long as you're willing to put a tiny bit of time in of how to fix them mistakes. You'll just keep getting faster and faster and fitter. And that this is a cycle that goes round and round and round. It's not just slow running all the time. You need to understand that there's fast running in there when the time comes, and then it gets super exciting to do. So that's the 3 things you may not have known about MAF, but you may have known them. But that's a bit of advice from me there. This is really a great method for people that aren't hugely serious in their running, who might just want to do odd races here and there. But at the same time, if you want to get faster at your races, if you are serious about it, I've guaranteed that this is going to work. I've read so many sort of stories where people have just run their personal best just from doing the first stage of MAF. So imagine doing the fast parts added onto it at the end of that as well. And I can see your times just getting better and better as the year goes on. So that's it from me again. Thank you to Raphael for giving me a suggestion for this video. It's a great call. And by the way, I'm doing a case study from his. That'll be the first one I do. He sent me a brilliant story about the Maffetone training he's been doing. It's definitely not one to miss. There's some seriously positive results there. So please consider hitting the subscribe button here to follow us through my journey and to see how we get on through it and see if it can work for you. And I'd love you to get involved. And please send me your case stories. I'll attach my email below. If you want to send me your experience of MAF, whether it's good or bad, I'm going to do loads of case studies when the time comes a bit later on. I'm going to tell everyone's story just to let everyone know how the process works. So thank you for joining me, and I'll see you again soon. Stevo.